Thank you everyone for staying with us. This is where we get to look at the papers for you. But it turns out my colleague, Queen Agaba, is on the show this morning. Queen, first time on the show together this week, right?
Yeah, first time together
How does it
this week.
feel?
It feels interesting. Of course, I always look forward to Global
So,
Morning.
yeah, sure, I can imagine. And the last couple of days have been very interesting, traumatic for some families with regards to insecurity. And then a particular statement credited to the Minister of FCT too seems to have added some kind of salt to injury, where he was talking about how that the public outcry over insecurity is unnecessary because he believes that there are politicians somewhere, some maybe vested interests, some unscrupulous elements who are now paying people to blackmail the government, to paint this picture that government is either doing nothing at all or isn't doing enough to check insecurity and things like that. So as is always the case, we've seen reactions across social media. People have been saying, look, this is very insensitive of the minister to have said because people have suffered in the hands of these people, of these criminals, and they are still suffering, one way or another. We've seen cases of trauma. I mean, you and I talked about the late Nabiha and her sisters the other time, what our family has had to go through, in the last few days and things like that, even though we know they've now regained their freedom, but the trauma that comes with it, some people say PTSD, something, all right? It's not something you want to laugh off. It's not something you want to downplay, exactly. So I think those are basic factors that really are very important in this narrative. But we're not hearing that there's so much of deployment of policemen across the FCT. So how many did you see on your way to work this morning?
Sadly, I didn't see any on my way.
Maybe you were not looking. You were not looking intentionally.
Obviously, I always observe.
Did you look at both sides of the road?
I didn't look at both sides of the road, but if we have that much number, I should see at some point on my way here. But
Right.
let me assume that they, possibly are switching sides.
And I charge you to look better when you're going home after work.
I definitely will. And I'll
Please.
give you the report tomorrow.
I look forward to that. All right, everyone, let's turn to our papers now. We'll begin with the Tribune for you. Tribune has a big story on the front of it. It says Plateau buzz again, with a writer that says protests rocks Mango LG, houses burnt as governor declares 24-hour curfew. Police bar sacked PDP lawmakers from assembly. I have court injunction to recognize only 8 members. Speaker, all right? Those details are on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune. Yes, and then when you go to headlines just above the nameplates of the Tribune this morning, you see 2 very interesting stories there, or headlines, I should say. Why Oluomo was sacked as Ogun Speaker. That was a drama that played out yesterday in Nigeria's southwest Ogun State. Okay, what's more, fruit sellers, carpenters, other artisans may pay between 500 and 50,000 naira yearly, or your state set to begin presumptive tax system. What does that even mean? Well, hopefully, in the course of the week, Queen will help us take a look at that on business points, right? So let's see what other stories we have. It says FARC shares 1.127 trillion naira December revenue to FG states. LG's insecurity, ACPs deployed to head intelligence units. Incessant tariff increase may hinder oil subsidy removal. That's according to IPMAN, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. All right, then we see a picture there on the front page. President Tinubu shaking hands with Secretary of State of the U.S., Anthony Blinken. It says U.S. Secretary of State pledges $45 million to boost coastal West Africa security meets Tinubu. Why Abba Kyari fought me. Femi Adesina is the one there speaking. That's on page 5 of Nigerian Tribune today. Let's turn to the other paper now, which Queen has, and that will be the Daily Trust newspaper. So we have the Daily Trust newspaper next with a big story, and Queen will bring us all of those headlines.
Yeah, and on the Daily Trust newspaper, and the big story there is 8 killed as fresh violence erupts in Plateau. Plateau seems to have a whole lot of
Insecurity
security
concerns going on, right?
there. Yeah. And underneath it, we have mosques, churches, and houses burnt. 24-hour curfew imposed in Mangu local government area. I've been seeing more of the Mangu local government area in the news recently. And then it says we've deployed troops. This is coming from the military. And on the top of the big story, we have security agents arrest Fulani leader, Badijo. And then Tinubu receives Blinken, seeks U.S. support for G20 membership. And then we have police arrest gun runner with ammunition in Kaduna. And then just underneath the okay, we have pictures obviously at the front of Daily Trust. I think
Right.
these
From,
pictures
from the Plateau
from
incident.
the Plateau, yes, Plateau violence. Sack PDP lawmakers storm Plateau Assembly, and APC members stay away. APC members stay away. That's it.
Basically, yes. Let me see what we have on the foot of it. It says bandits kill man, kidnap 16 family members in Niger. Despite receiving 1.88 trillion naira in 2 years, 9 oil-producing states' debts skyrocket. Turns out I'm from one of those states, by the way. Patients groan amid the health workers' strike in FCT. All right, so let's see the next paper for you. A leadership newspaper is our next port of call this morning. Let's see what the leadership has got first. All right, above the nameplate is where we start from. First headline there has a picture of the governor of Kano State talking about Abba Yusuf. It says residents differ on planned review of Kano Emirates because the government has said there's need to revisit that issue. Recall how that had also played out under former governor Umar Ganduje, who was governor then. Today happens to be the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the ruling party. We paid 55 million naira to free our Kadria sisters, that's family. But police would have us believe nothing was paid, and the army says nothing was paid, but then maybe that's a story for another day, right? But then there's a big story here, the star story I'd like to call it, insecurity, probe terrorism, financing now. Northern elders, CSOs tell Tinubu on page 4. It has about 3 riders there. Demand release of reports on General Atahiru's death. Insists aircraft's black box has details of killing. Army keeps mum on General Ali Kefi's allegation. Those are heavy allegations that we cannot just make to become the elephant in the room. Many feared killed in fresh Plateau attack. Queen brought you that story earlier on Daily Trust, right? Oil workers reject Shell's 2.4 billion naira assets sale. Poor power generation linked to gas supply hiccup. Again, we're back to gas supply conversation. Remember, Fashola used to talk to us about that a lot when he was minister of those 3 ministries, Works, Housing, and Power, and today we're back there. Okay, FCTA profiles kidnapping hotspots. What's more, AFCON, Cameroon faced Nigeria in last 16 after beating Gambia 3-2. All right. Okay, so let's allow Queen take us to This Day newspaper. That's our next port of call this morning.
Okay, and on This Day newspaper, just above the nameplate, we have Ndume to Tinubu. There will be consequences for moving CBN debts ban to Lagos. And then underneath the nameplate, okay, before the other story, it says presidents being misled by Aso Rock cartel. This is as regards to the movement of funds to Lagos State.
And there's some key departments of the CBN.
And then just underneath it, underneath the nameplate, we have CBN hinges monetary policy easing on reduction inflation. I think we have that on page 36 of This Day newspaper. Wike will provide security agencies whatever will make FCT safe and secure. This comes from Wike. FCTA to profile Uber drivers, ban on painted taxis. And then the big story here, just as we've seen in the paper you brought earlier, at bilateral talks, Blinken says Tinubu's reforms are bold. So obviously we see a picture of Tinubu and Anthony Blinken.
Right.
And then discloses U.S. entrepreneurs eager to invest in Nigeria, and canvasses ease in capital
Repatriation.
repatriation.
That's right. Queen, I'd like us to talk about this issue for a minute. It says Wike will provide security agencies, whatever will make FCT safe, secure. Then it goes ahead with the rider now to tell us FCTA to profile Uber drivers, ban unpainted taxes. You see, just at the top of the program this morning, before you joined in, I was talking about how that we need to move as a government and as a people, of course, as a country, away from this knee-jerk approach. So it's when something happens, you react to it. Every time something happens, you react to it. The question is, why are we not having the patience and the clear thinking to figure out what exactly is causing the problem? How do we nip it in the bud? How do we get to the root of it and deal with it at that level? For example, we're saying we are banning unpainted taxes. We have seen, I was in primary school. I was practically in primary school, junior primary, when I started seeing things like, let's bring sticker and identify commercial vehicles, taxis in particular in this case. There are cities where you have public buses. They are owned by individuals. So Queen has a public bus, I have a public bus, so I'm using mine, she's using hers. They are supposed to have a particular color, sometimes a combination of colors, maybe green and yellow, blue and white, whatever it is. That's how you identify them. But government's motive has always been the problem. Again, I've talked about sincerity of purpose for quite a while on this program, particularly this morning again. Government comes with that method from the place of let's raise revenue. So the idea is not primarily or fundamentally to check insecurity. It is let's jack up our revenue base. So it's when government is thinking critically about how do we expand our revenue frontiers. To say, okay, let's increase taxes in these areas. Let's do an upward review of XYZ. Let's introduce stickers that will identify vehicles in certain local governments, in certain parts of the city, and blah, 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 blah. The question is, if we say we are going to profile Uber drivers, we're going to profile Bolt drivers, we're going to profile all of those drivers on different networks, InDrive, driver, rider, whatever it is, for how long are we going to do that? Is there going to be some sort of policy framework around it? Is there going to be some kind of structure around it? Or is it just going to be an all-comers affair? So tomorrow, everybody's on the road, they're driving, and you find some people, some are carrying sticks, some are carrying machetes, some are carrying all sorts of things, some are carrying boards, wooden boards and all that, and they say they are revenue collectors. Is that what we are going to have? Or is the idea to say, let's know who are those living in our city? I remember when former governor of Lagos State, who was later a minister under former President Buhari, talking about Fashola now, Babátúndé Fashola then has seen a military man who was driving. Of course, military people and one-way driving has been a long time coming, but this was not even a one-way driving issue. It was a matter of a military man, a very senior one, top-ranking one of that, using the BRT lane, which you and I know is exclusive, dedicated, to the BRT buses. So the governor stops and says, look, this should never happen again. I respect the institution, the military, but your act now, this particular action, is a dent on that image of the military in this country. And he made a point that I have never forgotten, even though this happened many years ago. He said, people must understand that there are laws in Lagos. If you can't live by those laws, if you can't live with people who live by those laws, you will have to leave Lagos for us. The governor was unequivocal about it. And I think that's leadership. He didn't insult him. He didn't get to start a fight with him. He just made it very clear. The rules are clear. And these are the rules for everybody, including yourself, sir. So we need to have that replicated. So it's not enough to say we want to profile, we want to this, we want to that. The question is, by the time we see that insecurity has abated, by the time it begins to grind down, maybe to a halt, are we going to stop those measures? Are we going to just end those efforts all of a sudden?
It's continuity. That is where we have, I think that's where we have a challenge, especially when it comes to leadership in Nigeria. Or you see that when if the matter has not escalated on social media or has not become very troubling.
Or somebody has not insulted the president.
Or somebody has not called out the president or insulted the president, we don't take action. For example, the Nabiha family, before the uncle brought it to Twitter, he's been talking about, it was until we saw that a lot of people were becoming engaged, then we started seeing reports from, the security agencies and then the FCT ministers and all of that,
right.
swinging a lot of actions at that point in time. And that's what I'm saying. Now that the Nabiha family have been have been released, what measures are we putting in place now to ensure that there's never a repeat? And then as regards profiling, we need to ensure that, like what that former governor did in Lagos State, that nobody is above the law. Nobody, there's no sacred cow. When we put out a law or put out an instruction or a law, basically, let us ensure, let's see to it that nobody flaunts such orders because of the position you occupy. If you occupy a certain position of leadership, that should be a core reason why you should abide by the law and not
show example.
By example. So, lead by example. And I hope and I pray, and I'm also calling on, as always, calling on relevant authorities to begin to see to continuity. Let's not, because these kidnappers today say he who is planning for you is smarter or wiser than you. It's an adage. So if a person wants to steal from you, he's not going to steal when you are all at attention. He's not going to steal because obviously the person is looking to deceive you. So the person is not going to come when you're all at alert or when you're showing that, oh, you're prepared, you're well armed for a thief that is coming. The person will most likely look at when you are relaxed. So let's not relax and say, as regards all of these things that have been put in place, to ensure that the FCT is safe, let's ensure that we have continuity. And so it's a good thing that they'll begin to question or take away taxis that are not registered. But let there be continuity. Let this not just happen for a short period of time, let's say 2-3 months, 6 months, and then we go and relax again. These people will spring up again or come again with another tactic. So let's have that continuity.
Well, talking about continuity, I think that's part of the things, one of the several things we talk about leadership, all right? It's not enough to just do it for the gram, as I say. You just do it because you want to pacify the public, all right? It has to come from the heart. It has to come from genuine concern, from empathy, from knowing that, yes, a lot is on my desk, right? So I've been entrusted with so much of influence, with so much of responsibility, and the least I can do in whatever capacity is to provide the required service for the people that I'm supposed to do that for. I think that's what we need to do going forward. We're going to take a quick break now, everyone. We have a few more papers to look at, but we have guests joining us via Zoom already at this time. We're back shortly with our first discussion this morning. Do stay with us, everyone. We have a guest joining us live via Zoom this morning. Queen and I will engage him, having a conversation on the very topical subject of insecurity across this country. I mean, he's not just only in the FCT, like I said earlier on the show this morning. I mean, go to states, go to cities, go to communities, and see what stories they have to tell as well, from Benue to Edo, from Delta to Ondo, from Oyo all the way to Akwa Ibom, and the stories are just very much the same on different levels. Of course, you go from Kaduna all the way to Borno, from Kebbi to Katsina, the same story. This morning, for example, speaking of Kebbi, I was shocked to be hearing and reading a story on the papers about how that some kidnappers had been arrested by the police. Large number of them, all right, arrested by the police in Kebbi. I mean, when you hear stories like that about maybe Borno, about Adamawa, about Yobe, Zamfara, Katsina, it doesn't come so much as a shock. But when you hear things like that happening in places like Kebbi, like maybe Gombe and Jigawa, you're not wondering, I mean, how did we get here?
So it's gradually spreading.
Yes.
It's eating deep, especially into the north.
So the earlier we want to be sincere about that conversation, the better it is for us. So we're joined by Oladotun Hassan. He's a lawyer as well as the president of Yoruba Council Worldwide. Dotun, I'm sure you can hear me loud and clear. Good morning to you. Hello,
good morning. It's a pleasure to be on your program.
Okay, great. My colleague and I, Queen Agaba, we feel delighted to have you join us on the program this morning. So I want us to just get right to it, right? Queen is going to ask you a few questions shortly, but let's get it on the road. You and I talked about insecurity not too long ago, but it has taken a drastic turn between then and today. What has been your observation?
Well, the basic drawback that we are here to really address is the issue of intelligence gathering. We are not too security conscious as citizens, and the height of intelligence are how much the citizens are well equipped with information. How are they going to give the information to? How are they going to pass information? So if those information is restricted to just police and police and police, the fear of compromise within the police and connivance has given a lot of fears and lacunas for citizens' confidence in the security apparatus that we have. So there are a lot of issues that needed to be brought on the table to addressing, whereby are we having community town hall meeting to address our immediate environment, even if within our blocks of flat? Do you really from the point of neighborhood? You cannot address security from the point of the society. These are basic facts. There is no orientation on the street. Within your street, is there people? Do you have your CDA meeting that concerns the entire street? Are we really that commune in our communities? So these are basic facts that is derailing and stagnating the issue of security from progressing upwardly. But in as much as we must commend the present federal government in trying to see how best they can quell the issue of kidnapping around FCT across the country, and their counter-terrorism approach is highly commendable, but it's not enough where you don't equip the royal fathers with rightful information, the schools, the churches, the mosques. There are a lot of things that can be taught on the basic security techniques. And I believe if these are not properly taught, there is a way the federal government, state government, even communities can sponsor media orientation on security tips. So, and security tips are very basic in this period for you to identify new people in your area, how to identify terrorists, how to identify kidnappers, how to behave when you meet an armed robber. So these are basic facts that you can never, these are societal issues. But at the same time, the government needs to come up with an holistic approach in dealing with the just less than the fact that yes, we have the Nigerian police force. Let Lagos, let every other state have their own separate policing forces, which will we cannot just call the commissioner of in we already used to, but there must be an independent chain because our state governors are giving security votes. If this security vote, like Lagos state government now, they establish a special security corps in which they have their own measures of dealing with criminal tendencies and all that. But it's not enough when you don't equip them with all necessary knowledgeable armament, how to for onward training, IT, and these are even drone experts. So these are basic areas that we can begin to look inwardly. Security is everybody's business. Both private sector need to inject more money. I want to employ, especially for the FCT, Mr. Minister should not see himself in that toga of just wearing the toga of being a governor of FCT. No, he should see more on how to decentralize security, ensuring that we have local security mechanism on ground. We must begin to segmentalize and have compartmentalized security approach in dealing with the issue. The interland, how do you manage the metropolitan cities and everything around in and out of Abuja? Not just giving out number of DSS or the off points. There must be points of security basis whereby, oh please kindly visit this maybe at every junction there can be some security post outpost, not just maybe we having mobile men with their mobile bikes and all that. We need some pointers places, strategic positioning whereby they can build cubicles that can occupy 2 policemen, their arms, they can just have a little space in various locations within the city town, especially black spots. So these are basic areas that can as well spread across the entire state, that will both bring in local security and the conventional security. So it's more about synergy. It's not just about the budget, though we know that financing is very key, but the ones that we have invested in our security, are we getting the benefit of the do we give them motivation, legit insurance for their family? Are we catering for other things that when their pensions? No, we need more motivations for these people, and it will go a long way to addressing the issue of insecurity in no small measures.
All right, excellent. Thank you so very much. Queen has a question she wants to ask you.
Okay, now, Barrister Dotun, we see in the papers that the FCTA says that they're looking to profiling Uber drivers and these drivers, as well as taking off unregistered taxis or uncolored taxis or out of color taxis. What do you make of this development?
Well, it is not just the profiling that matters. It is all about information technology. The Uber drivers have a specific app that reads anywhere they are. It's all about ensuring, from the Uber operators, all their drivers are properly profiled. That's what the government just needs, is not to open another profiling office. No, is to work with a mechanism that those institutions
Okay, I guess we have a bit of network glitch.
Right, but Barrister Dotun was just making a point about how that we don't have to
reprofile.
Yes, or be duplicating roles or something. He's saying this should be a data intelligence kind of move. Because first of all, he says these apps, these ride-hailing apps already have data, have profiles of their drivers. Because there is a rigorous process for vetting them.
And if you now have unpaid taxis and all,
Okay.
we're fast losing stream with Barrister Dotunde. We're just going to take a break, everyone, so to allow Dotun reconnect with us. We're back shortly with the rest of the conversation. To stay with us. Thank you for staying with us, everyone. You know, Barrister Dotu was just saying a while ago, he's trying to reconnect with us now. We're just saying a while ago that, look, let's not have this idea of let's now have an office, like a department somewhere within the FCDA where you say this one has the responsibility of profiling, you know, ride-hailing drivers. You know, he's saying we already have that database. All you have to do, I guess he was trying to point out, is synergize with Uber, with Bolt, with Rider, with InRide, whatever it is, all right? Then help them, I mean, partner with them in such a way that there's a synergy between the FCT administration and these platforms where you have cabs and all of that. Because the idea is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's the point he was making essentially, right? So take advantage of what they already have. Like I was also saying a while ago, these guys, I mean, the ride-hailing people, they have a rigorous vetting process that they subject their drivers to. You know, of course, it may not be perfect, no doubt about that. We are saying something has been started by a bunch of private practitioners, right? So the authorities in the FCTA, in particular, can take advantage of that, all right, and drive the conversation around how that we need to know who is working in the FCTA. It shouldn't be such that people are just off the radar. Somebody picks you up, for example, from the office after work today, as opposed to drop you off somewhere at maybe Garakitu. And then in between the office and your drop-off point at Garakitu, we don't know what has happened. Do you understand? And we're saying we don't know the person, we can't find the person. All we knew was she requested a ride. Do you understand? We should be able to know who the driver was, all right? When did they even join the ride, that platform, right? We should have all of those basic, you know, information points or data points, as I say. We must understand, we must know at what point did he pick you up, at what point, I mean, was there bad traffic in between? Did he drop off somewhere, or did you ask him to drop off at a quick service restaurant to pick up maybe a piece of chicken or something? All right, so we need to know all of those things, because in the end, it is life and death we're talking about here, all right? So if we can't do that, because I think that's also the problem, we need to learn the culture of thoroughness. Everybody's just in a hurry. Everybody just believes that the idea is, there's a way my mom would put it, the end justifies the means. So it doesn't matter how we cut corners now. It doesn't matter how we
as long as
just
you get there.
have this exactly haphazard approach to it, you know, with all of the, as they say in the Niger Delta, inside. The important thing is the goal is achieved. No. We must be thorough about the process while we have our eye fixed on the outcome. If we don't do that, it's a problem. You see, if this issue had happened a few months before the last general election, I can tell you for free, Queen, the approach will be different, because election is just around the corner. But when election is not involved, it's as if politicians don't have much at stake. So they can decide to grandstand and say some things that insult the sensibility of Nigerians with so much of, I mean, so brazenly. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we hope we have been rejoined now by our guest, Barrister Oladetu Hassan. If you're there, Hassan, we would like to continue our conversation with you.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. You were making a brilliant point about the issue of profiling a while ago. I'm sure you want to land on that narrative.
Yes, you know, very important that we utilize our information technology system. Just our maybe via our telecommunication brands that we have. It's not to advertise any, but the government through our phone lines can track down. They track down conversations. They track down locations through this means. It's not until when crimes are being perpetrated, they begin to track where is the perpetrator, what phone. Immediately, citizens should know by by their fingertips with our telecommunication companies. The government can synergize more support for them with this Uber company. Even in all garages, if you are a driver, not just Uber driver now, if you are a conductor, there is a bigger opportunity for people to learn the rigors of that business. Government needs to begin to license operators. Is to ensure everything they are doing is in line with reasoning. You just go to Lagos, you see the garage, the area boys mounting insecurity. At the end of the day, they will call it, yes, we are doing our job. What is the job of that kind of a job? When the government is not properly synergizing, operating, and seeing how these people are not just left alone. There is no DSS there is no police, there is no community representative. You just leave it in the hands of no name people, and at the end of the day, they constitute threats. They begin to even grandstand government, begin to tell us that, oh, they determine how much you pay fare without the government having regulatory standard. If the government don't have a national transport fare and parks management authority, it cannot regulate. The transport brigade approach will solve that. If the government don't have a mechanism of identifying the those that are in different sectors, segmenting and compartmentalizing people that are students, those that are working in the transport sector, everybody is profiled with just one singular national NIN number. We don't need BVN, we don't need all number of social security number. You just need only one social security number. If we are connected with just one social security number, you determine foreigners that are not Nigerians. You can be able to quell the haphazard our open border system, whereby terrorists come in and they go out freely because our borders are porous. So we need to address some basic issues. If we are very serious about this, the government knows the solution, but because of favoritism, because of political interest, because of our ethnic chauvinism, we have usurped the reality of our solution. So the government not just to be talking about just sitting in your office and drawing potholes of, oh, these are areas, the entire system that will now give another new ton of problems in our garages. Right, this is the system. So we cannot be a proper.
Okay, that's again connection problem right there, but it's a good place to leave it with Olajutu Hassan this morning. I want to say a big thank you to you for taking our time this Wednesday to join us on this conversation.
Thank you so much. Right? It's a pleasure to be on the program.
Yes, thank you so much again. He was just making very salient points about all of these issues around insecurity and so on and so forth. And he did talk about the fact that government knows what to do, but then political considerations, ethnicity, tribalism, favoritism, and so on and so forth, just get in the way somehow, and that's very sad, right?
Now I want to look at the point of sensitivity now, just a little bit away from knowing what to do, and then it's one thing to want to take action as a government, and it's another thing to be sensitive to the times the times and situations that the country is in. Right. This is as regards to the statements made by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, where he said that the call, the obvious talk about insecurity in the country and call out is unnecessary. Now, that is a statement that I think that if anybody who has empathy and is sensitivity. You don't make such statements, especially in a time when you know that the people are already triggered by. It's obvious that the cases of insecurity is appalling. I mean, literally everywhere. And this is because I was having a conversation with somebody sometime last week, and this person could tell me of 5 other persons that, in fact, more than 5 other persons that he knows. And even in the office here, when I talk about insecurity and I talk about taxis, I talk about, this has been going on for quite a long time. And then you hear people talk about how they had almost similar experience. So it's everywhere. It's everywhere, especially here in the FCT. You talk about it and somebody can almost categorically tell you that I've had similar experience. That's to tell you that it's not something that happens rarely or something that we just hear of or just happen to 1 or 2 persons. It's gradually stepping into, now I'm going to say that it's gradually stepping into every sector, every aspect of every organization, because you have, from every organization, I was hearing the last time that a journalist was, robbed, obviously by the One Chance guys, and then the other time I learned of a doctor, and then we hear of these things happening just around us, and then coming to say that it's unnecessary, in as much as I know that there'll always be some political
undertone
to it. It's only wise to be careful what you say and how you deliver your message, owing to the fact that a lot of people are hurting, especially now. So I think that, and then I'm just speak about empathy. I feel like if you have empathy as a leader, I think it is one core feature, a characteristic that you should have when you have to deal with people. You should be empathetic and look, not just sympathize with them, but wearing their shoes, and then that also will guide your statement and then will propel you to do better and want to put an end to insecurity in the country. And I just keep praying. I always keep praying for better leaders.
All right, so I was going to call you prayer consultants, but we need to review the appellation, right? But we have just three more papers, I should say, to look at this morning on the program. We understand Anthony Mamodu has sports updates right up ahead for us on the program as well this morning. But let's turn to the Guardian newspaper, because we're looking at the papers a while ago before we broke through the schedule to speak with Barrister Oladitu Hassan, right? So the Guardian has a big story on the front of it. It says 2025 broadband targets dicey as 31 states remain underserved. That's where you have details on page 6 of today's Guardian newspaper. Has pictures of 3 gentlemen, including the Minister of the Communications, Digital Economy. I'm talking about Dr. Boso Tijani, and then, of course, the President of Telecoms Operators of Nigeria. All right, 12 in police night over NNPP APC supporters clash. In Kano, the Supreme Court has ruled. I mean, that brings closure to that case. People should learn to understand, to use the words of Queen, the times. All right. Old corruption, saboteurs hobble new regime at passport offices. Okay, they should not turn the new reforms on their head, please. Government generates 1.7 trillion naira in December, shares 1.1 trillion naira among federating entities. You can read it up on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Mufwang declares 24-hour curfew in Mangu. That again takes us to Plateau State, where we heard there's an outbreak of violence once again, right? Ijaw youths, Pengasan set for showdown over sale of Shell's onshore assets. Blinken Tinubu hold bilateral talks on security, economic cooperation. What's more, when you look at just still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, FG hands over 700 megawatts Zungeru project to MESI, may stabilize national grid. Police move against self-kidnap, arrest suspects in Lagos, Plateau, Abuja. You know, that's an angle too.
Funny.
Yes, so that just shows you how strong the commercial element is.
Yes, and then I think it has to be because, we see maybe, for example, we have someone whose family member has been kidnapped, and then you see how worrisome it is for the rest of the family members.
So everybody's running helter-skelter and raising money.
Yes, they'll do anything, go at any length to raise money just to get that person free. And then you look at it and look at how maybe lucrative, or maybe how you can just get a desired amount of money you're looking for business or for life or so or for something. I mean, I heard of a case where there was a couple that wanted to get married, and then the family was not willing to sponsor the wedding or so, or give money in that light, and then the wife had to kidnap herself. It was planned. The husband had to kidnap his wife to be his fiancée. So they had the arrangement and all of that, and then the money was in the process of gathering the money. Some investigations were made, and then they were arrested, and then they came out to say that it was because they were planning their wedding. Now this is funny because the cases of, if you know what it means to be kidnapped, if you know the trauma that comes with it, you know the pain, you know how agonizing it is for family members and how restless it is. In as much as you want it's a wedding, and this is where it comes in. I think we need to begin to talk about pressure, unnecessary pressure. Most of the reasons why we have cases of, now I know that there are some extreme cases, but these juvenile delinquencies and cases of robbery, theft, cyber crimes and all that is majorly pressure from young people, the quest to get it quick, the quest to want to be among, and those are self-infused pressure. You're the one infusing pressure on yourself, inflating pressure on you. If you understand that, I like that. I use myself as an example. When I can't get it thin, at a particular point in time, I let it be and just make do with what I can
and find your peace.
And find my peace, and I'm cool with it, and I'm fine with it. And I say this, like no amount of pressure can make me do anything that is out of place or out of my value and out of my belief system. And that has helped me to live fine and live in peace and put me out of trouble. Now we must begin to come to that point. Now some people will say that, oh, our celebrities. Now I'm going to another angle, but it's actually
all very interconnected.
All interconnected. We see that our celebrities, we have to be sensitive because of the times that we are in. We see that our celebrities, we see how flamboyant they live, how they show off, and how they do. But I think that we should begin to do it with some form of
maybe modesty
or moderation. That's the word, with some form of moderation. And I know that because a lot of people look up to these people, and they want to, and then our celebrities would need to begin to do better as regards to the value that they put up front. Let it not be that it's only your affluence that is out there, or how you make this money and all of those things that you show out. Let it be that we begin to talk. We begin to give more value and be sensitive to what we put out there, because a lot of people are looking up to you and they want to do what you are doing regardless of, they don't care the means that they get what they get to be like you or to want to be like you. So let's stop glorifying, especially celebrities who just show off and we don't know how they come about these things that they get. Let's stop putting them in the forefront. And now to young people, I feel like no amount of pressure should make you do things that are extreme. I mean, how did you get to that point where we see young lovers, you now begin to want to use your girlfriend for sacrifice just because you want to ride the latest cars, you want to ride, I mean, these things are vain, and these are the reasons why, and then this goes to tell you that it's obviously because of these material things that a lot of people now begin to kidnap themselves. If you've ever been kidnapped, if you know the agony that comes with it, if you know the pain that comes with it, I really don't think that
you won't wish it on your enemy.
Yes, you wouldn't wish it on your enemy, let alone a family member. So it's funny, and it's still not funny.
Serious issue, right?
Yeah, serious issue.
All right, we'll stay with the front page of The Guardian, everyone. Ogun Assembly impeaches Oluomo for alleged fraud. That story came through yesterday. But then, when you look at the right end of the front page of The Guardian, one headline there reads, EFCC to arraign Obiano for alleged 4 billion naira fraud. Today, for the records, Obiano, Willie Obiano, that's his name, former immediate past governor of Anambra State, succeeded by Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo. That case started the very day he was, he left office, all right? So we're told that he was about leaving the country that same evening when he got arrested at the airport by the FCC, and the rest, as they say, is now history. So, Punch newspaper is next, and Queen will bring us those headlines.
Now, on the Punch, just above the nameplate, we have FG to sell 5 power plants for 81 billion naira. I think we have that on page.
That's 1 billion.
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. $1 billion, I beg your pardon. I think we have that on page 11
Yes.
of the Punch newspaper. And then just beside that story, we have Naira depreciation pushes drug imports to 950 billion Naira. And then Nigerians lambast Wike for downplaying abduction epidemic. And then just underneath the nameplate, we have kidnapping epidemic. We see kidnappings. It makes it to most of the top stories on the newspaper. Kano, 9 others, more death sentence, life, jail. And then underneath it, there's Kano, Benue, Anambra, others committed to death sentence for convicts. This is coming from the officials. And then we have IG, others intelligence gathering on abductors, kidnappers, landlords risk 20-year jail terms. And underneath it, we have President Tinubu and Anthony Blinken. Again, the picture there, Blinken meets Tinubu, pledges $45 million security fund for Nigeria and others. And then underneath that story, we have INEC meets security agencies over February 3rd by elections. And then we have 2 arrested over Mark's death after hotel sex romp. And then lastly, on the Punch, we have 4 billion Naira theft. EFCC arraigns Obiano today, aid defense ex-governor.
Of course. Well, thank you, Queen, for those stories from the Punch newspaper. Our last port of call this morning, everyone, with the papers is Business Day, where we get to follow the money for you, basically. One big story, as always, Nigeria's growing debts, handicaps, future workforce. We understand we're doing about 75 trillion now in debts, right? That in itself is a huge, huge conversation. Okay, we'll leave it to Queen and the rest of the team on Business Points. All right, schools feed students off on farms as prices skyrocket. Of course, you have to be creative. That's why we also have the creative economy, all right? We have to be creative about these times that we're living. And that's point where you have to be sensitive, all right, to the core elements of the times that we're living, how that these times are radically different from the ones we had seen in the past is very crucial for today. The rise of Dangote Cement, all right, we understand that they've crossed the $1 trillion mark now, right? So you want to also read that up this morning, okay? Nigerian insurers pay 43% of premium as claims in 13 years. That's 43% of premium. So how is it that premium claims were not paid beyond 43%? You can look at that, but I will follow the trajectory, and it's clear that the insurance industry in this country is not where it used to be in the past. People are now beginning to repose more confidence in it. I'm sure regulators are doing more work. The key players themselves, the practitioners, are also now realizing that Nigeria cannot continue to lag behind where insurance is talked about. I mean, it's shameful because I did a special report in 2017 on insurance in Nigeria, and I got people who had lived abroad share their own stories about their experiences and interface with insurance companies, whether it's in the United Kingdom or in the United States, Germany, Australia, and all that. And you're asking yourself, is this really insurance we're doing here? But we need to be fair to ourselves. We've moved from where we used to be, but we're also sure that we are not where we should be just yet. All right, meet 7 investors with biggest African startup funding deals in 2023. This is one story too you would find details on when you pick up a copy of Business Day today, and then just read through for yourself so you can stay ahead of the news. Incidentally, that's all we have for you on the papers now. But let's turn to Anthony Mamadou, who is standing by with an update on sports for you.
Has named who he thinks the 8 greatest players of all time are. Ronaldo Nazario, 47, enjoyed a glittering career from 1993 to 2011, playing for the likes of Barcelona, Inter Milan, Real Madrid and AC Milan, while he also scored 62 times in 98 games for Brazil, the former striker is one of the most iconic footballers of his generation and has since tried his hand at football ownership with Real Valladolid in Spain and his boyhood Brazilian side Cruzeiro. And speaking back in 2022 to The Guardian, Ronaldo, who netted 352 times in 518 games in his career and also won 2 Ballon d'Or awards, named the 8 greatest players of all time. However, he left one huge name off his list. The Brazilian snubbed Cristiano Ronaldo in favor of his long-time rival Lionel Messi, despite the Portuguese icon having scored 891 career goals and continuing to excel at the age of 38. Meanwhile, Ronaldo's list included several players he wouldn't have played with: Diego Maradona, Pele, Johan Cruyff, Frank Beckenbauer, all from a previous era, although they are widely acclaimed as legends of the game. Similarly, despite crossing over in his playing career with Marco van Basten and Lionel Messi, he was never a teammate of either of the icons. On the other hand, Ronaldo played with Ronaldinho at both AC Milan and for the Brazil national team. The two stars were crucial in helping to drive the Seleção on throughout the early 2000s. This included winning the World Cup together in 2002. Bayern Munich are expected to have another go at tempting Newcastle United to sell Kieran Trippier before the week is out. Newcastle have rejected a loan and a low-ball offer from Bayern, who are juggling right-back targets with Paris Saint-Germain. Nordi Mukiele. Mail Sport understand that Trippier is open to linking up again with former Tottenham teammates Eric Dier and Harry Kane, but the price would have to be right. Thomas Tuchel launched an explosive rant at his Bayern Munich stars after they suffered a dismal 1-0 defeat at home to Werder Bremen. The German Giants have enjoyed a mixed campaign under former Chelsea boss. Despite qualifying with ease from their Champions League group, they are now languishing 7 points behind Bayer Leverkusen at the top of Bundesliga. This means Bayern are in danger of missing out on the title for the first time since 2011-2012. FIFA President Gianni Infantino has called for harsher penalties, including automatic forfeits against teams whose fans commit racist abuse. Following 2 incidents on Sunday, Coventry's City Casey Palmer was allegedly subject to a racist gesture during their championship game against Sheffield Wednesday, while AC Milan's players walked off in solidarity after Michael Magnan reported monkey noises from a session of Udinese supporters. In a post on X, Infantino said he believed that there had to be sterner punishment for clubs whose fans are racially abusive. The statement published on behalf of FIFA read, "The events that took place in Udine and Sheffield on Saturday are totally abhorrent and completely unacceptable. There is no place for racism or any form of discrimination, both in football and in society." Cristiano Ronaldo has said that football's individual awards no longer hold the weight that they once did. Lionel Messi picked up FIFA's The Best prize last week, and many were surprised that he did so over the treble-winning Erling Haaland. Messi also won the Ballon d'Or after his World Cup triumph, but FIFA's prize was awarded over a period that did not include that. Ronaldo, speaking after winning 3 prizes at the Globe Soccer Awards, hinted that Messi was not a deserving winner. Ronaldo added that he was unlikely to be in running for major awards in future as he now plays in Saudi Arabia. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.
Thank you, Anthony. That's a good place to leave it this morning with sports. Anthony will continue to bring you speed with regards to sports across segments here at Global Television. We're still having a conversation around insecurity and the developments we have come to find recently, and how that governments and citizens must work hand in hand, must take responsibility, while also trusting police, armed forces, or the military overall to help also deal with all of these. We understand some states are now mulling the idea of life jail, death sentence, which again is a big conversation in itself, because this is a point in the history of the world where nations are now discussing the abolition of capital punishment. But Nigeria is at the place that is, some sort of dilemma for the country where tough decisions, by all means, must be made. However, the sensitivity of these choices or these options, all right, also becomes very of critical importance for us. As a nation, we'll be joined by Dr. Babayo Sule, as a senior lecturer, Department of International Relations at the Federal University, Keshere in Gombe State, to help us find sense in this discussion this morning. Dr. Sule, I hope you can hear me. Okay, he's still working to join us. So we just want to find perspectives and insights from him as it has to do with the developments within the security space of this country right now. They say some of the causes are remote, all right, some are immediate. But whatever those causes are, can we not deal with them? Do we lack the resolve? Do we lack the resources to be able to address these issues? Because Nigeria cannot continue to lose lives, all right? Even poultry, even chickens are deliberately protected by their owners because of the investments made in such business, let alone life that is sacrosanct, that you cannot buy in a store. So it has come to a point where we must ask ourselves, do we want to fix security or not? Again, it goes back to the idea that the Minister of the FCT is reported to be saying that there's nowhere in the world you don't have crime. I mean, nobody's even having that conversation. It's a no-brainer that there's crime everywhere in the world. However, you're looking at some very core variables. For example, what is the degree of those crimes? All right, how rampant are they? How much is government working to fight all those crimes? How much is government working with regards to preventive measures? And where a crime has been perpetrated, for example, how long does it take government to unravel, to bring those behind it to book? It's very important. How much does government assure and reassure the people of the security of their lives and their property? You know, it's interesting when government says to people, whether it's at the state level or at the federal, people should go about their legitimate business without fear, and so on and so forth. Government is on top of the situation. It's good to say all of those. It's good to assure people. It's good to help them build confidence, find confidence. However, it should go beyond rhetorics. It should go beyond political statements. All right, it has to be such that government at all points, on all levels, across board, is walking its talk. I'm sure that's where most people have a problem with this conversation around insecurity and so on and so forth. Because whatever government is in power today will leave at some point. The question is, are we going to be left a better country, a more secured nation, or not? We must answer those questions in ways that are very, very practical. All right, we're taking a quick break. When we return, we'll be joined by Dr. Babayo Sule from Gombe State via Zoom. I'm joined by my colleague here, our senior anchor here, talking about Anthony Modu, who also doubles as sports anchor. Anthony, thank you for coming on the program as always.
Always a pleasure being on Global Morning.
You look brilliant, like a page from GQ magazine. Right.
Okay.
So I know you've been following security concerns this week. Yeah. I followed your program. So for the most part, you've talked about all of these issues around FCT. But again, these guys are back in the conversation, talking about Plateau. All right, it's quite concerning because in the end, what it has done again is, I mean, you have talked about Plateau a lot, given the other incident the other time, but now we understand 24-hour curfew has been declared in Mangu local government, which is quite concerning. That is to add to the FCT conversation we'll be having now for maybe a week or two or something.
I think the protest or the insecurity in Mangu has also to do with the recent 16 PDP lawmakers, because Marina, who was like the spokesperson who led it, is from that local government, and as a former speaker also weighs a lot of influence. And you could see that immediately they were rebuffed from getting into the House of Assembly. We knew that something was going to go amiss, and because of that, issue, tempers flared up, and I think that was the best thing the governor could do, because he couldn't take sides and he couldn't say he was going to deploy the military against his own people,
right? Because
that would be a very sad way to start his own administration.
That's right.
But it's sad that the people of Plateau are still emerging. Probably this is where the parties are supposed to come into play. The PDP, National Working Committee, should speak up, try to resolve this impasse amongst them. And I think the Supreme Court has made a ruling. It shouldn't be that difficult for them to resolve amongst themselves, especially 16 PDP lawmakers and those who came in via the Court of Appeal. I think the judiciary also has to be held responsible, because they're the ones causing this chaos. The fact that they have two different rulings. Probably the Supreme Court should come out and in clear terms,
maybe interpret
and tell, they say that those who came in via this Court of Appeals judgment is null and void, so that.
But the Court of Appeal cannot. There has to be an escalation of the matter to the Court of Appeal by interested parties. However, we understand that issues around elections, National Assembly or State House of Assembly elections at the appeal court. So there's already a threshold.
But we had
just yet.
But the Supreme Court can, I don't know how they're going to do it, maybe in connivance with or in partnership or collaboration with the NJC, see how they can sort this out, because this is a very weird situation we're finding ourselves as a way to resolve that impasse in Plateau State.
Interesting, Anthony. I'd like to say thank you to you for coming to share these insights with us this morning on the program. I understand that Anthony will be back here at the top of the hour, 10 o'clock Nigerian time on Talk Sports, so you don't want to miss any part of that. We're taking a quick break now. We understand Dr. How we got to where we are and what exactly we must do to move out of the woods with regards to securing lives and property in our country, in this instant case, beginning from the nation's capital. Dr. Baba.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good morning, listeners.
Great. So we need to just delve into it, the issue of insecurity. We've seen the military aspect of it. We've seen kinetic and non-kinetic approaches or methods. We're seeing people talk about how that we need to make more investment in terms of how we equip the police, the military. We've seen the politics of it. As a matter of fact, one of them now is a statement contained in a video credited to a minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and so on and so forth. Just as summarily as possible, walk us through some of the core variables in this narrative.
Well, thank you very much. It is always a recurring issue The issue of insecurity is an ugly monster that is pathetic and worrisome in this country. We all know that there are always long-term and short-term reasons behind this problem, but the escalation or rather the expansion of the situation, particularly and its manifestation in the FCT, is even more worrisome because it is expected that that is the administrative headquarters of the country, and that is where policy making, execution of policies, project activities, and other things are supposed to be administered. But unfortunately, now that is where the civil servant, the politicians, and the policy makers are not suitable because of the rare, ugly threat of insecurity. Now they are unsuitable to do the needful. Well, the explanation is simple. As far as the country is concerned, the long-term neglect of the basic means of livelihood, or rather the affordable, decent means of livelihood for the citizenry, is what is pushing and throwing the citizens into these ugly activities. We need to know that not all the, some criminals are naturally bound to commit crime, no matter what you do to them. But to me, based on my own perception, most of these criminals are pushed into this crime by the environment, not by their own wish or like. No one, for example, may wish to always hit and run and go and hide. Each will have prepared to appear before the society in a decent means of living, if possible. But because the society is not providing the enabling environment, that is one of the reasons why some of Nigerians, or other Nigerian citizens or youth, are engaged in this. In other words, impoverishment and deprivation, which is accompanied by corruption, inequality, and the domination of the privilege of the resources distribution in this country by the very few members of the society, is what is causing this. And then, of course, we cannot detach politics from it. In Nigeria, almost everything is politics. There is always a way in which politicians express their grievances. They either do it verbally, they do it either by action, they do it by mobilization, and they do it by sabotage. So I am thinking, based on some allegations, that maybe there will be a political motive behind. In fact, there is even a conspiratorial statement these days that this insecurity in FCT Abuja is being orchestrated in order to justify the relocation or the movement of some agencies and MDS from Abuja to Lagos, maybe based on the pretext of insecurity. This is just a speculation, but anything is possible. We cannot simply jettison all the possibilities. And then another possibility is the weak security architecture, or rather the collapsing security architecture of the country. Don't forget that the basic principles of any government or state in any part of the world is the guarantee and the protection of lives and properties of the citizenry. And in a situation whereby the government is failing to do that, we can say that the primary responsibility of that government in that state is not being actualized, and therefore that government has no moral rights sometimes to even claim the collection of tax and other things, because first of all, you must justify and guarantee the protection of lives before you start thinking of collection of tax and coming up with policies. Because of the weak security architecture, embedded corruption in the security sector, as it is being alleged usual, the inability to provide them with the sustainable and motivating pay in terms of their remuneration, the archaic and obsolete equipment for operation, a very poor intelligence, and other things related to that, are all what conglomerated into the current situation that expanded the security, or rather the insecurity tentacles toward FCT and beyond.
All right, Dr. Sule, we're just taking a quick break now while we're talking with you. Please stay with us. We're back shortly, everybody. Just stay with us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. We continue our conversation with Dr. Babayo Sule now. Thank you, Doc, for staying with us on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. So I was just going to ask you a second question. The fact that it has come closer to home now, which is the fact that FCT is now the subject of conversation around insecurity in Nigeria. What does that say about the efforts we say we have been making the last few years?
Well, thank you very much. Of course, to be paired to government and to be paired to ourselves, we cannot entirely dismiss the effort of the government and say that they are not doing anything. I think if we say this, we are not being paired to them. But we can also at the same time just possibly conclude that they are not doing enough. Because if you look at it, is all government around the world face one form of insecurity or the other, both domestic and international security threat. There is no state, no matter how powerful it is, no matter the military strength, that is not always faced with internal and external security threat. But the response, the policies, and the ability to exhibit the political will in order to counter the security threat is what matters. And that is where we feel the Nigerian government is found wanting here. If you look at the previous 2 years, as you mentioned, the insecurity is taking another dimension. Strategically now, it is being impacted. According to some security experts, the Nigerian situation today is worse than the situation even during the Civil War. Because during the Civil War, we know there is an army fighting against another army and the enemy is aware of another, or rather, let me not use the word enemy for the Civil War because they are all Nigerians. Let us say the brothers that are fighting, the brothers are quite aware of themselves and their location, and they confronted each other physically and face to face. But in the case of the current guerrilla strategies of the insurgent and the bandit, you don't know who you are fighting. It may be possible that one of the criminals is even your neighbor. He has been watching your move. He has been reading you. That means the Nigerian government is now unable in the last 2 years to mount extra surveillance and intelligence, because this is exactly the equipment needed in order to counter such kinds of security threat. In fact, you don't even need military crackdown at this point. What you need is you can save your equipment. You don't even need to expend much budget in terms of procuring more weapons, but rather intelligence gadget, drones, and you need to intensify and mount surveillance and other things. That is just what you need to do so that you will be watching the movement of each Nigerians. And that is, to me, where most Nigerians now need to be patient and allow the government to regulate such things like telecommunications and media. Of course, I am for the freedom of all these things, but these are some of the technique or some of the method in which these criminals used to communicate. Imagine in a country, someone will kidnap or abduct, and then he will use the same mobile telecommunication to negotiate ransom undetected and successfully. I think that is all places where the Nigerian government should do more and where actually it is not doing. So in other words, in the last 2 years, the Nigerian government is doing its best. We must appreciate that. But we are saying that that best is not the best enough that we want, because we need more. And particularly the areas that need more focus are not being given the most adequate attention that they need. That is the area of surveillance, intelligence gathering, and then the ability to counter these criminals through a better approach in such a way that, in other words, they say that in order to catch a criminal, you must operate the criminal's minds. That is, if the criminals are operating at 3.0 degree level, then the Nigerian intelligence section should play at 5.0 degree level intelligence. That is, we should think ahead of the criminals. Any strategy that they may be able to come with, then we should think of it ahead of it before they come with it, so that we should be able to counter it. So the government is not doing the needful as anticipated.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Babayo Sule. We're grateful for your time on the program this morning. We do wish you the best of the day.
Okay, thank you very much out there, and I also wish all of us success.
Great. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has watched the program this morning, including to our guests. But do remember that the views of our guests are their opinions and not those of Global Television. I'm Oya Agmofwe, thanking you on behalf of my colleagues here at Global TV in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Do have a great day ahead of you.